everyone. You're very welcome to this evening's presentation about Oatlands College all-weather pitch. Thanks very much for coming along to this information webinar. My name is Dara Carroll. I work for a company called EMCO, and we have been engaged by Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council Parks Department to help with engagement in relation to this all-weather pitch proposed for Oatlands College, being developed by Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council. I'll be giving an overview of the project, supported by my colleague Richie German. And also we are joined this evening by Owen O'Brien, Senior Parks Superintendent, who will be answering questions and queries at the end of this presentation. The format of this webinar, the information webinar, I'll run through the presentation, and during the presentation on the project, we welcome any input, and we're asking you to do this through the chat function. You'll see an image of it there. So you can put in some questions, and that these will be gathered during the course of the presentation, and they'll be fed back to myself and Owen at the end of the presentation, and we hope we can answer some of those questions at the end of it. We'll be capturing all the feedback as well that's provided in the chat function, and that will be included with the various submissions that people have sent in to us during the Part A process. And we'll be recording this webinar to post on DLR Citizen Space website for others to review. I should just note that when you post a chat, it will be only you'll be able to see your own chat. Of course, we'll be able to see it, but the general others won't. So you don't have to worry about anonymity. You'll be the only one who sees that. So what's going to happen over the next 50 to 60 minutes? It's three main parts. It's the introduction, which I've just started here with the welcome and introduction and discussion on the webinar format. We'll be talking a bit about the stakeholder engagement to date, give an overview of the Part A planning process and the timeline involved in that, and what a Part A planning is. And we will be giving an overview of the scheme itself that is going for planning. The second part will be talking about some of the key issues that have arisen during the initial engagements prior to the Part A planning application, engagement with the public, local residents, and these, a lot of these issues will be around traffic management, lighting, flora and fauna. So we'll talk in a little bit more detail about those during the presentation. And the last part will be the question section. So questions that you can submit during the presentation through the chat box, as I said. Richie will feed them back to myself and Owen, and hopefully we'll address those at the end of the session. So in terms of the engagement process, we're trying to achieve mixed methods of engaging with the public in this. So an information evening webinar, a webinar tonight, and then on Thursday night there's an information evening in the school itself. People can drop in between the hours of 5 and 8 p.m. In Oatlands College in the sports hall there. So we'll have a display of some of the documentation that's part of the proposal there, and we'll be there to answer your questions and people's questions during the evening as well. We've had a number of workshops with residence groups and meetings with local stakeholders, including sports clubs, the schools themselves, the pupils, and residents groups. There'll be an online survey. There is an online survey which is live on the Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown Citizen Space website. And we're looking at other ways of promoting awareness through leaflet drops, and we'll be doing some social media posts as well, and trying to maximize the amount of awareness and information about the project over the coming weeks during the consultation period. So some of the stakeholder engagements that we've undertaken is, looking at meeting with local stakeholder groups, so local residents from Trees Road, Woodlands Avenue, Trees Road Low, Woodlands Avenue, Beaufield Manor were invited to a workshop in 13th of March. This was following an initial workshop done towards the end of last year in October 2022, which was organised by Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown Parks Department. We are looking to raise awareness of this scheme through the wider Stillorgan Mount Marion residents. We have sent information about the Part 8 and to local councillors. We've sent it to Mount Marion Residents Association. So we're hoping to get as wide a range of feedback as possible during this process. And as mentioned, we've spoken with the schools, the staff, both primary and secondary school, and also student councils in the schools themselves. And of course, local sports clubs, because this is essentially a project, a sports facility project. And so local sports clubs obviously have a keen interest and a stake in this project. General project timeline and also the engagement activities. So we're at Q2 2023. So in the initial design development, there was the initial workshops with local residents, and that was fed into the design development process. And now we've reached a stage where it's gone to Part 8 planning, went for planning the 21st of April, and this we are now in the statutory, what's called a statutory consultation period, where people can make observations through different means on the scheme, and provided it gets approval, the project is approved, looking to start works possibly towards the end of this year, Q4 2023. So Part 8 planning, some of you are familiar with this process. The Part 8 planning is maybe slightly different from normal process, where someone might apply for an extension to their house to the local authority, or a developer might apply for some houses to be built to the local authority. Part 8 is when the local authority, the county council, applies to itself for permission for a project, a development project. So the public consultation period for the Oatlands College all-weather pitch, Part 8, started on Friday the 21st of April and is running until the 2nd of June inclusive. During this time, any individual organisation can submit observations, whether you can do it through the online survey, which enables you to make an official submission, or you can use different formats, such as emailing parks consultations at DLRCC.ie, or a written submission marked proposed development at Oatlands College to the Parks and Landscape Services at the address below. All this information is on the Citizen Space website. As I said, for people who may be less comfortable with online submissions, as I said, we'll be there on this Thursday, the 4th, and we will have forms that people can fill out there on the spot if they prefer to do it that way as well. So it's a 6-week period that people have to make submissions, and then those submissions are assessed and a report is produced for the Chief Executive of Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council. who then produces his report on the scheme, and then the council decides. That's the elected members of the council vote on whether the project should proceed or not. So it's actually your local councillors who will be voting on this project and on whether it will go ahead or not. So the proposal itself, what we're talking about? Well, it's about the development of an all-weather, which is an artificial pitch at Oatlands College, which can accommodate a range of different sports. It's a partnership between Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council, the Edmund Rice Schools Trust, and Oatlands College, and also Oatlands Primary School. It's a 135 metre by 86 metre floodlit pitch, which can accommodate a GAA pitch, a full-size GAA pitch, which is 130 by 80 metres, and also a soccer pitch of 100 by 60 metres in the middle of the pitch. There's also the ability to play across the pitch as well, with for smaller sided games with goalposts running across the pitch. It will be available for other users and clubs, different sports, whether it's GAA, and the football club, soccer clubs. Obviously, clubs like Kilmacud Crokes would have a long-standing relationship with Oatlands College, with their weekend academies. So really, this would be looking at local sports clubs to utilise. And of course, during the school day, it can be used by the schools themselves. So the primary school and the secondary school in the winters and evenings. What the pitch does, it allows for games to go ahead and practice to go ahead in all weathers. It's not the current pitch, and many grass pitches become waterlogged in our climate. And it also extends the hours of use of the pitch with floodlighting, so it can be used into the evenings. So the planned evening use would be between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. At the latest. The site plan in this drawing here. So the pitch will run at 90 degrees to the current pitch arrangement. So what we have at the top of that picture there is Trees Road Lower. To your right, it's the Stillorgan Road, the old Dublin Road entrance to the school. At the bottom is Woodlands, and to your left is Cherry Garth. So the pitch, the new pitch, will be turned at right angles to the current playing pitch at Oatlands College. I have a series of elevations here. They're quite hard to read in this format. We will be having larger versions of these in the public display. They're available online as well, that people can go into the drawings on the Citizen Space website and look at the detail of these. So the elevations of what it looks like from the side, from the pitch side and either end of the pitch. It was raised in a recent consultation, the recent consultation in March, that sometimes people find it difficult to read plans and elevations. They can be quite technical and hard to understand. So since that, we've actually taken these, and what Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council have done is they commissioned a series of 3D computer-generated visualizations of the project to help people understand what this project looks like. So I have a couple of these here. So this is the view of the proposed all-weather pitch, and we are looking here from Oatlands College at the bottom of the picture there, the Oatlands College Secondary School. To left, the green roofed building there is the current sports hall for Oatlands College, and the top of the picture there is Cherry Garth, Trees Road Lower on your right, and then over to the left, and and top is the primary school, and further to the left would be Woodlands Avenue. So that's a view looking up the pitch. You'll see from that view that the pitch is raised a couple of meters down the school end, because there is a significant slope across the site. So the pitch is actually excavated down at the Cherrygarth end, and then raised up just over 2 meters at the Oatlands College end. So it elevates the pitch in order to have a flat surface across the pitch. You'll see in the picture again the markings for the GAA surface, and also the soccer pitch in the middle of that. Also visible in these visualizations are the proposed floodlights, 3 on each side, that will illuminate the pitch in the evening time. A second view we have is more from the Woodlands Avenue side, an oblique view there of the pitch, and showing the layout there from that view, and just indicating, you know, the trees along the bottom there retained, and there's no change along there. The road you see there is the internal road within the school grounds, and that will be used for drop-offs and collections for people dropping off, particularly children, when it's being used outside of school hours. So the second part is to raise some of the key issues that arose during the initial consultation with people, and that, you know, in the preparation of the Part 8 design. So in summary, the key issues raised in engagement included traffic management, particularly in relation to access via Woodlands Avenue and impacts on Woodlands Drive and Bowfield Manor. Also raised was the potential light spill from floodlights, noise generation. People were also asking questions about impacts to flora and fauna, and what happens during the construction phase. So since the initial meeting in October, where some of these issues and concerns were raised by people, a traffic and parking assessment was commissioned by Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown by traffic consultants Traffico, and what it looked, you know, to try and address some of the concerns, risks and mitigations in relation to traffic and parking that might result from this scheme. It identified ongoing issues of daytime and Woodlands Avenue associated with school drop-offs, particularly the primary school there. And also the report tried to look at what the patterns of usage for the new pitch might be. And Cloisteowen down the road was used as a reference because it's a very similar size pitch. Also, there are similar issues in terms of access, and also Oatlands College, between Oatlands College and Oatlands Primary School, the number of car parking spaces are roughly similar, slightly more than Cloisteowen down the road. So the table that you see there, which is the predicted evening time use of the all-weather pitch, it's between 6 and 7. It would be the largest number of children, because that tends to be the youngest children who would be practicing or playing games in that period. And then it tails off somewhat after 7 to 8 period, between 60 and 70 children might be using the pitch at any one time. And then the later slots with older kids and adults, you're talking about 50 to 60 people who might be using the pitch at any one time. What this table do is also, it identified a couple of pinch points or the busiest time periods for traffic, and that would be the changeover between the children leaving after the 6 to 7 slot and the children arriving at the 7 to 8 spot. So between 150 to maximum maybe 170 kids could be coming and going over a 15-20 minute period at that time. And what does that do for traffic in the area? So the risks identified in the traffic report were additional vehicle trips via Woodlands Avenue and disruption from drop-off and collections, particularly at Woodlands Avenue. Inconsiderate parking behavior, people parking up on curbs, parking outside people's houses, blocking driveways while they wait for children to come or during drop-offs. And then also within the grounds, conflicts for pedestrians in the traffic lanes accessing the pitches as well. Some of the proposed mitigations that are included in the traffic report is that all pitch access would be via the Oatlands College main gate onto the Old Dublin Road. It's proposed that the Oatlands Primary School gate would remain closed after school hours, so closed for both vehicular and pedestrian access during out of school hours. So there would be no advantage for people to drive down, for example, Woodlands, to drop their children who would then cut through the primary school gate. That gate is proposed to be closed completely. There would be coordination between the pitch operator and the primary and secondary schools monitoring this situation. This all-weather facility will be managed by an external pitch operator. They operate pitches, all-weather facilities across Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council. It's a third-party professional operator who employs people at each site to manage the sites to ensure the all-weather pitch is opened and closed, that gates will be closed at the end of the session, the lights are turned on or turned off as appropriate, and the facilities are kept clean and safe. So there will be ongoing coordination between that operator and the primary and secondary schools in monitoring the situation while the pitches are in use. As I said, there will be a prohibition of drop-off and collection via Woodlands Avenue. So any clubs using the pitch will be stated clearly to those clubs, and that and it's requested that they state that clearly to their members. As I said, there should be no advantage to going down Woodlands Avenue because of the closure of those gates. Alternative drop-offs will be provided within the school grounds, and there are possible opportunities for additional parking within the school. Appropriate signage and road markings will be provided within the school grounds as well to ensure the safety of pedestrians and accessing the pitches, you know, if they're dropped off at Oatlands College secondary school, or whether they're dropped off down towards the primary school within the grounds, to ensure that the children traversing the site and accessing the pitch can do so in a safe manner. Again, subsequent to the last meeting in March, in which some of these Traffico report findings were presented, some further refinement in the proposed traffic management system, which is included as part of the Part 8 pack. So this is essentially maps some of those measures that are proposed, those proposed mitigation measures and the proposed traffic flows within the site. The blue lines there indicating vehicular traffic in and out of the site, and also green lines representing the pedestrian traffic to and from the pitch. This will be further refined in the detailed design process. One thing this this drawing outlines is the potential for an alternative access point at the gate lodge at Oatlands if the front gate becomes congested. It is based on experience in the school where they have events, whether it's concerts and schools. They feel access can be accommodated through the front, both ways, in and out of the main front gates, but there is a facility to utilize the gate lodge on certain occasions, and that can be explored in more detail during the detailed design process, but that's included in this proposed traffic management plan. Pitch floodlighting was the other key part of this project that people had queries about. So what's proposed are the use of 21-meter high lights to minimize spill. The lights at Coláiste Eoin down the road, for example, are 18 meters tall. It might seem counterintuitive, but the taller the lights are, means there's less light spill because you can get more direction from the lights that are taller. So these lights will be even less spill than the ones at Coláiste Eoin. LED lights now are highly efficient in terms of energy, but the technology now has moved on considerably, and with the ability to direct the light towards the field of play rather than and minimizing any spill on the surrounding areas. So technology has moved on a huge amount in this way. The system will provide for 500 and 250 lux lighting system, which will be suitable for GAA, soccer, rugby. 500, the higher lighting might be used for hurling, for example, but generally it would be more likely the 250 lux lighting, which is appropriate for football. It's very difficult to create a render of what the lighting would unlike the daytime visualizations that you saw there of what the lighting would look like. So what we've included here are some pictures of equivalent flood lighting in projects in Ireland. This is not too far away in Beckett Park in Cherrywood. It's a floodlit facility with a similar lighting. And so that's an actual photo of that. And then at a slightly lower angle, and this was a question raised by residents, is it possible to get photos of a slightly lower angle, you know, what it might be look like from houses or adjoining areas. So this is a project in Maynooth University, again, similar lighting system. It's a bigger facility, but similar lighting. And just again, indicating how the light is directed on the field of play and there is little light spill surrounding the pitch. The full report, lighting report, which is available in the Part 8 documentation, I'm not going to go through it all here, which highlights the lux levels. These are the light levels that would be arising from the lighting on the pitches here. So this shows the extent of increased lighting surrounding the pitch. What this drawing, and this has been refined since the last meeting with residents in March, the lighting design has been adjusted and further directional technologies incorporated to actually reduce the impact of lighting, of light spill. And this drawing here shows that. The drawing also has taken into account the boundary between the physical boundary between the properties at the top of your picture there at Long Trees Road Lower. What this drawing doesn't actually provide for is actually the screening provided by trees. So those levels will actually be reduced further. And what those levels show is there's some increase in lighting in the bottom third or a quarter of some of the properties along Trees Road Lower. But those levels, say 2, 3, 4 lux levels, would be far less than ambient street lighting would result, say at the front of properties where it might be 20 lux. So it is quite low lux levels that would spill into some of the gardens on Trees Road Lower, and that's highlighted in those drawings. But this report is included in full in the Part 8 documentation. Other questions that people had were related to flora and fauna. So in terms of wildlife, the fauna, a variety of field surveys were undertaken for the site, and a comprehensive ecological impact assessment was produced from this. And this report, it concluded that both construction and operation mitigates any impacts potential on the terrestrial, mammalian, avian, and aquatic sensitive receptors. So mammals, birds, aquatic creatures, through various standard construction and operational phase control. So how this will be built and how it will operate. The conclusion is basically that there's no significant impacts on biodiversity as a result of this. So, and this report and the field surveys within it are included in the Part 8 documentation. In terms of flora and particularly the trees, it is a fact that a number of trees in the northwest corner of the proposed pitch would be removed to enable construction of the pitch, and a comprehensive study is included again as part of the Part 8 documentation. But again, in response to residents' queries, the number of trees is minimized by proposed construction methodologies recommended by the tree specialist, the arborist. And overall, it should be noted there'll be a net increase in the overall number of trees on site, with additional tree planting provided for as part of the project. And a number of these new trees will be semi-mature in size. This is a fairly technical drawing. I won't go into detail, but this is from the tree protection plan. The arborist reports, identifies in the northwest corner there some trees. There's a few, there's 4 poplar trees which are deemed that they're within 10 years of their life, and they're probably would need to be taken down irrespective. And there's some other trees as well in that corner there. Again, it should be noted that there will be an overall increase in tree planting on the site. I'll just remind you of the project timeline, engagement activities, preliminary design running in the end of last year through to design development. We're now at early stage of the Part 8 planning, which will run until the 2nd of June, inclusive, in which you have the opportunity to make your submissions and observations during that period. So I'd like to hand over with Richie, if you'd like to maybe collate some of the questions, queries that have come in during the presentation, and you might put them to myself and Owen. As I said, Owen from Parks Department will probably answer a good number of these questions. So Richie,
hey there. Yep, I'll come in now with some questions. So yeah, there are a couple of questions from different people about the suitability of the pitch to play rugby, as it's one of the sports of the school, and also adding to that, just if rugby is in the scope, will the pitch undergo rugby turf specification testing post installation? So that's about, yeah, the pitch being used for rugby.
Thanks, Richie. You would pick the rugby question first, Richie, being
Yeah.
a rugby man yourself. Owen, do you want to address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's a multi-use pitch. Yeah, suitable for rugby and GAA, soccer, other sports, other uses, and it will undergo rugby certification testing as well as GAA and soccer. Now, so therefore it's perfectly suitable for rugby. Now, there won't be any permanent rugby goals, rugby posts in place, and rugby posts are large, so they don't transport very well in terms of temporary posts. So that's the tricky part of it. You know, a rugby pitch is very similar size to a soccer pitch, although you have the runoff, the try line. So, you know, you use the soccer line as your general play, your soccer, that's the extent of it, but you won't have rugby posts in place, but that's not going to be in place. You could have small-sided rugby goals, rugby posts and goals that you could pull out, all right. So I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Owen.
Just on that, Owen, there is storage being provided for as part of this project, isn't there, for ancillary equipment that might be used on the pitch? There's
a spectator area, and just beyond that spectator area there is a goal storage area as well for your pull-out goals. Some of the goals will be, some of the crossfield goals will be retractable from the fence line, but others where the retaining walls occur, they won't be, so they'll have to be pulled out from that storage area. But certainly we could store some small-sided rugby goals in that area. Yes.
Thanks, Owen. Okay. Richie.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's two parts to the next question. Could the main gate be widened to facilitate two-way traffic, and then could use be made of the primary school playground to increase parking? That's a question you have an answer to.
Yeah, certainly the widening of the gates isn't part of the scope, and it wasn't necessarily brought up as a major issue. Actually, the fact that those gates are narrow means that traffic will come in slow, and they'll slow immediately when they enter the car park. That is the theory. And the playground at the rear of the primary school, we do have that down as a kind of an overflow car park if needed. So yes is the answer to that.
And I should note, Owen, that traffic management plan does, and I mentioned it in the presentation, if there's a particularly busy period, there is an alternative exit from the pitch. But our understanding from talking to the school who organise different events and concerts, that generally the front gate, as Owen, you said, is narrow, can accommodate two-way traffic.
Yeah, that's it, Darragh. Yeah.
Sure, thanks, Owen. And then I have another question here. Just what is the surface of the pitch made from?
So the surface of the pitch, it's third generation synthetic turf. So just to give you a bit of an idea how it's made up, it's how it's constructed and made up. So there's obviously leveling the ground, and there's a drainage system, and then there's your porous stone layer, and then a final layer laid to kind of fairly exact tolerances before a shock pad is laid out on the pitch. So that's normally about 20 mil of a shock pad, and it's like a bit of a big jigsaw. So that goes down first, and then your synthetic turf rolls out beyond that, and it's glued together normally in 4-meter wide strips, and then that's filled with an infill, traditionally an infill of sand and the SBR rubber. but we're trying to bring in, instead of the SBR rubber, we're trying to bring in natural infills into this pitch here. I don't think there's any in the Republic of Ireland, but we are really trying and looking at the options here, and we'll be including that in the tender as well. And we have a specialist who is advising us, and hopefully it's something that we can do use of the organic and natural infills rather than the SBR rubbers as an infill.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, thanks everyone. There's a few more questions coming through. So yeah, question here: will Oatlands Primary have use of the pitch?
Sorry, if you wouldn't mind just repeating that one.
Sorry, just will Oatlands Primary School have use of the pitch?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, both schools will have access to the pitch. Yeah, up to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and then from 6 to 10, it'll be used by the local clubs.
Okay.
Monday to Friday.
Yeah, I have another question here. When it gets to the vote by the councillors, is it a straight vote to proceed or not, or can they propose amendments? What is the likely next step if in the unlikely event they voted against proceeding?
So the councillors can vote to accept, amend, or reject the proposal. So they can propose amendments and make amendments to the scheme. And if they vote against it, it's probably unlikely to be run again as a Part 8, so it wouldn't proceed then as a project. I think that's the most likely scenario.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I have another question here. Will school afternoon sports require booking with the external pitch operator from 4 to 6 p.m. or will it be agreed with the schools and our teachers as per the school calendar?
Yeah, it'll be agreed between the schools. Yeah, there's no need for an external operator to be involved because the school have access up to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. So
sure.
Between the schools to figure that one out. Yeah,
and then at the moment I have one more question, which is another one just popped up. So when exactly will the construction take place?
We don't know really yet in relation to construction. We're just taking it one step at a time. The Part 8 will the public consultation is to early June, I think the 2nd of June inclusive, and we'll assess submissions, observations, and then consider a suitable meeting to bring it to in terms of a council meeting, and we'll update all stakeholders then after that in terms of timeframes.
Thanks, Owen. And then yeah, the last question I have at the moment is yeah, just positive progress. When will decision on go sorry, that just jumped away from me. When will decision on go or no go be known, and if the green light, when will project be completed?
Yeah, it's a little unknown at the moment in terms of the exact time frame for we'll hopefully get it back to the council meeting in the summer, and we'll know then, so a decision will hopefully be made at that meeting, and then we'll think about construction and a timeline for that. So construction will be, depending when it starts, but will be in the order of sort of maybe 10 months for completion, but it's a lot of the work isn't noisy, so you know, some initial work is, and then it's you know, it's little bits of work then which won't cause huge impacts maybe compared to a larger construction site. So
yeah,
while it's long, it's not hopefully going to cause too many impacts.
Oh, and just on the timeline, if I'm correct, and if there was a council voting in support of the project to proceed in the summer, it then has to be the detailed design has to be done for the project, and then it has to go to tender to to various contractors to get prices back, and then it will be approved in terms of a budget, and then it will proceed. Could you maybe just describe that timeline? Or
yeah, so decisions is yet to be made. I suppose, like, we can do some things in parallel. Obviously, we couldn't progress with any award of contract until a Part 8 is approved, but some things could be done in parallel. So we're going to be looking at those timelines in a little bit more detail now over the next few weeks. But generally, yes, it would be Part 8 and tender, which takes, you know, a number of couple of months generally for public tender, and award and approvals would be, you know, maybe another month or so. So yeah, these things do take time, but just depending on when it goes, when we're proposing to bring it back to the council meeting, and we might be able to try and progress some of those elements in parallel.
thanks, Owen.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, on the back of that, just the construction timeframes, would you envisage the actual construction to take place during the school year or focused on summertime?
Apologies, just if you wouldn't mind just repeating that question.
Sorry. So yeah, in relation to the construction timeframes, would you envisage that the actual construction would take place during the school year, or would it be focused on summertime works?
Ideally in the summertime, but as I said, it's probably a 10-month construction contract, so it's unavoidable that you're going to have, you know, you're going to be running into the school term. So, but ideally you would be doing some of the heavy work in the summertime, all right. But it may or may not be possible depending on how things progress.
And you do have some experience of that in schools, Owen. I think it is the council's policy to develop all-weather facilities in schools. So, for example, again down the road in Close to Owen, you managed to construct that without too much disruption to the school, and you've done it in other schools. Am I right there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have. We've built a number of these in schools, and we just write very strict, you know, clauses into some of the documents to make sure there's, you know, there's no deliveries and during certain times. You know, works generally, all the works have to be hoarded off and fenced off, obviously, but deliveries and those impacts are obviously very important. Health and safety is the most important aspect of this, of a construction project like this for a live school. But we're used to that as well there, you know, working in live public parks and you know, building in those, doing work in these areas. So we are used to that, and our contractors know that we treat it very seriously.
And the contractors would, and you've been making known to the contractors of the, say, ongoing needs for parking within the school grounds, for staff, for parents dropping off children within the school grounds, and that will be part of the construction management planning as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, their own work vehicles will all have to be accommodated within the site as well. So yeah, it'll all be made. They'll have to be made aware of all these issues and all these things, and we'll be able to manage that process ourselves because we're used to managing it.
Thank you. Richie, I see.
Yeah.
So there's some questions in chat, and then I see in Q&A as well. So maybe.
Yeah, we have both, and I've been fielding.
Okay, you've been
from both.
checking
So
both?
yeah. I have one more from the Q&A here that I'll ask now. It's kind of tied in what you're just talking about, probably. Just school and clubs access to facilities during the construction period.
Yeah, there'll be no access. There'll be no access to the pitch during the construction period. So once the construction starts, then, you know, the clubs and the school will have to be accommodated elsewhere, and we will work to try and make sure that's the case.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. There's a question here just on floodlights during winter. Are they on timers, or is it the case that they will be switched on from dusk and switch off at 10 p.m.?
No, they won't be switched on from dusk. They'll only be switched on when they're used. And we can build in a timer that they're switched off automatically just after, you know, the cutoff point, Monday to Friday of 10 p.m. And then on Saturday and Sunday, the cutoff point is 9 p.m. So we can build in that into the system that there's an automatic shutdown. But certainly there won't be an automatic on at dawn. Sorry, at dusk. So we can manage that quite easily.
Sure.
Just on that, Owen, could you maybe describe the role of the pitch operator in monitoring this?
Yeah, so there are a number of cabins there, changing facilities, and there's also an operator's cabin that's going to be in place overlooking the pitch. But one of the roles, I suppose, is traffic management. That's a very important part of the role, managing the traffic, managing any of the drop off and any potential haphazard parking as well, liaising with the schools, but managing that transition from you know, one user to another, and also the floodlighting as well, and making sure that the users vacate the area quickly and quietly, and then floodlights are off, and there's an automatic shutdown then beyond that.
Thank you, Owen.
Thanks, Owen. There's just one more question that came in here. Are there any proposals for where and how the school and clubs who depend on the facility currently will be facilitated during a 10-month closure? Those plans aren't in place yet, as I think you said, Owen.
No, not yet, but you know, we certainly will have to accommodate the clubs and the school, no doubt about it, because they're obviously very important facilities, and even the grass pitch at the moment is very well used throughout the year. So yeah, they will have to be accommodated, and we will work with them to make sure that's the case.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. One more here, sorry, just on what basis does the pitch operator allocate the pitch to clubs, and yeah, who gets priority, or how's that decided?
It's something I'm not involved in terms of the allocation to the clubs. The local clubs will certainly be getting priority, and clubs that use the pitch currently will also get priority. But it's generally through the senior park superintendent and the operator. They generally make that decision, but it's like we're building, you know, this pitch for the community, for the local sports clubs. That's what we're doing it for. So certainly there'll be a hell of a lot more access for all local clubs.
Thank you, Owen.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're up to speed with the questions that have come in so far. Thanks everyone for sending those in, and I hope we answered them well. Dara.
Okay, thanks very much, Richie, and thanks very much, Owen. I'd just like to thank you all for attending this webinar. As we said at the outset, it is going to be recorded and will be available to others who couldn't attend this evening's webinar. There is an opportunity for people to come along to, as I said, to the drop-in session this Thursday. Anytime between 5 and 8 p.m. We'll be on hand to try and answer questions, and people can fill in forms as well during that time. We do ask that people share information about this project through your residence groups, or you can share the link to the Part 8. There's also a report on the engagement, which is effectively a Q&A of a lot of the questions that have arisen over the last number of months. So we do encourage you to disseminate the information as much as possible through your networks and your friends and neighbours. So I'd like to thank you all again. We may see some of you on Thursday, and if not, thank you for your contributions and thank you for your questions. I'd like to thank Richie, my colleague, for moderating the questions, and in particular Owen O'Brien for answering the questions after the presentation. So we'll leave it there. Have a good evening. This will be available again, and we might see you on Thursday.